Happy New Year. This is our second take. Trying this again. You are listening to Thank Me for My Cervix, where we talk about all things mental health with a focus in the veteran and the military community. I'm your host, Marine Corps veteran Shawna Marie, and I'm now a mental health advocate, artist, and hairstylist. I'm really excited today because we will be talking about very touchy subjects. Today's going to be one of our more heavier conversations. So that's why I put a trigger warning in the caption, just to let you guys know that this may be a more difficult conversation than we've normally had on Thank Me for My Cervix. So I'm waiting for Cailtin to hop on, see if she joins the live, and then as soon as we get her on, we'll start asking her questions, get to know her. She's really awesome, so I'm excited to share this with you guys. So let me... sorry. Is it back? We're good? Okay. We'll be talking about PTSD because I think the conversation is important to have. A lot of people relate PTSD to only significant combat-related Oh. Awesome. Okay, it takes just a minute to connect. Caitlin's going to be on here. Just takes a little bit sometimes. Yay! We got it!
Yeah, finally, me and technology. There's a chasm there.
Well, I'm so grateful. I just want to take this time to say thank you for taking time today to come talk to me about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So let's start. What Marine Corps?
I'm sorry? You cut out a little bit.
That's okay. What Marine Corps? Like what? Tell me a little bit up and how you got to the Marine.
Well, like most people that join, it was a really good way to get out of a bad situation and get someone to pay for college and get the hell out of Berryville, Virginia. And, things were bad enough. I left a year early from high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Virginia?
Yep.
And is that where you joined out of?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and you Paris Island.
Yes. Yeah, it was not integrated back in my day.
Yeah, no, I mean, me either. I wasn't. Tell me, what were the years that you joined?
2003.
2003 to
2006.
Okay. And what was your MOS?
Well, I was supposed to be a warehouse clerk, but when I checked into my unit, that was that period of time that a lot of my unit was cooks, and they were phasing that MOS out to give it to civilian contractors. So they were kind enough to be like, "Hey, you're going to Iraq. By the way, we're giving you a new job. Enjoy." So I got voluntold because when the initial push in Iraq, the Marine Corps was like, "Hey, if we're always saying that we take care of our own, why are we letting the Army and the Navy take care of all our deceased?" So they tasked us with doing that.
Wow. And so that was just like because your MOS was phasing out, they just picked you randomly.
Oh yeah, just random as hell. Just lucky, I guess.
I'm sorry. So tell me a little bit about that job. If you don't mind, anything that you're not comfortable with talking about, this is just for knowledge to help other Marines who may, or other veterans, have civilians understand us, where we're coming from. This is just pure knowledge. So don't share anything that you're not comfortable with.
They'll never understand, but I'm absolutely comfortable talking about everything. Nothing's taboo with me.
Awesome. Me too. Great. I love that. I'm glad that we're on the same page with that.
Awesome.
So yeah, tell me a little bit about that specifically.
It's fucking terrible. I don't know if I'm not supposed to curse or whatever, but Marines, right?
Yeah.
It was fucking terrible. I struggled for a lot of years.
Yeah, I bet. And so your job basically was what was the job?
So basically the job was bag 'em and tag 'em. That's the short way of putting it. They would they would either bring them to us or we would have to go to the hospital or the flight line and retrieve them. And then we would bring them back to the building that we worked at. And, we were responsible for their personal effects. We would dig through their pockets, figure out whatever we could. We would try to identify them. If we couldn't, we would put unknown on the paperwork. And then, of course, the paperwork goes in the transfer case with them. We take them up to the flight line or we stick them back in the reefer, depending on, if they had flights at the moment or not. Sometimes we had to wait. We tried not to. It was imperative that, we get them to the flight line, get them home, get them to Dover, Delaware as quickly as possible.
Okay, Dover, Delaware. That's where like all the bodies go, and then that's initially, and then they go to the.
I'm sorry?
Is that where so Dover, that where like the bodies would go?
Well, they would come to us, and then they would fly to Dover, Delaware, and then Dover would do all of the official stuff, like dressing them in uniform. If we had an unknown on the paperwork, they would do DNA. They would figure out who it was. They would notify the family. Matter of fact, it was sort of depressing because everybody on the base would know when someone had passed because they would always cut the internet and the phones for 24 hours so that way they would have time to notify the family. Yeah.
Gosh. Well, I can. So, how long did you do for him?
2 tours. The first one was 9 months long, and then my second tour, I only did mortuary for 6 months, and then I got sent to Korean Village, and I was dealing with the PX. So I was supplying with, all the Marines out on the FOBs. I was supplying them with things that they needed. And then I had a seizure, and that was the end of my time in the Marine Corps because they were like, "Hey, you're an epileptic."
Wow. So, but through all that time, you had one episode when you were epileptic? Only one seizure?
Oh, I've had other seizures since, so I'm definitely epileptic. But
yeah. But you're
as you know, that automatically disqualifies you.
Yeah.
But I read all sorts of crazy articles about people that are perfectly healthy and they join the military and then they suffer combat trauma and suddenly they inexplicably have epilepsy. They have all sorts of other brain problems. They have TBI, which I have 3. Yeah, so it's terrible.
So when you finally EAS, or when you got out, the process of going through the VA, did you? So are you disabled? Do you have a veteran disability rating?
Yeah, I'm 100%, but I had to fight those assholes for 13 years on that. And the process of, when I got back, they kept me on active duty for about 2 months because they were like, "Hey, medically, we need to check you out. You need to go to Bethesda and get checked out medically." So for 2 months, I was just basically their glorified paper bitch. If they needed something copied, if I wasn't at a medical appointment, and they wouldn't let me go home and see my family, and it was just terrible. I felt like nobody gave a shit, and it was very evident because when I left, there was no transition, there was no pamphlet, there was no information. It was just, "Hey, you're not a Marine anymore. Good luck."
Yeah. No, I'm glad that you talk about that because it was the TRS program, which is still not that great, but they only implemented that right as my generation was kind of getting out. And granted, I joined in 2010, 11.
Yeah.
So I was probably getting in as you were getting out. So we did kind of have probably different experiences, and you paved the way for us. You're a badass, and it goes undersaid because like what you experienced as a female Marine, it was difficult, and I love that you're willing to come and like, speak on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So when you were EASing, when it was really hard, when it was difficult to do it, were you getting any other help before? Like, were you reaching out? Okay.
No. There were no resources, no information, no nothing.
Do you have children?
No. You could not pay me to be less interested in having children. I mean, I'm already a mental dumpster fire. You want to throw a baby into that mix? That's insane. Yeah. It's insane.
I understand. What kind of help do you get from the VA now?
I mean, I don't know if you want to call it help. I go to them for all my healthcare needs.
If you have anything wrong, that's where you go.
Yeah, but it's quite literally, it's like a part-time job that I don't get paid for, and quite frankly, I don't know why half of them even get a paycheck, because the amount of apathy and ineptitude and just the general I don't give a shit. And my favorite is if I get upset with the lack, if I get upset at the amount of ineptitude that's being displayed blatantly, they automatically go to, well, you notice my reaction and you're going to latch onto that as your excuse as, well, I'm not going to take this. I'm going to get off the phone with you. Like, that should be illegal.
Yeah.
Like, veterans could be at the tipping point where they're thinking about killing themselves. And, Susan has decided that because I've been a little rude with her, she's going to hang up on me. Like, did you really think you would come work at a place where people have TBI, they have mental health problems, they've seen combat, and you think when you're not doing your job well, they're going to take it well?
That you're always going to be smiles and happiness, especially when the VA treats us a certain way already.
Yeah, they just don't get it. And what's more is they don't care.
Yeah, I wonder if we employed more veterans. I know that there is a good amount of veterans in there, but there are some civilians that I don't know. I don't know a solution to it. Oh, I have a question. What VA center do you see now? Like, where are you located now?
Well, I go to the one in DC, but I've been to 4 different ones, and they've all been garbage. Martinsburg is by far way worse than DC, but yeah, they're all terrible.
I'm wondering if it's like because it's so busy, because I'm sure they have a lot of veterans in that area.
I've only heard about 2 or 3 VAs in the US overall that get good reviews, that they have their shit together.
Yeah, and it's a shame because veterans, without the Marines, military, without these people that aren't getting the hope that they need, where would the country be? It's difficult.
Yeah.
Did the VA give you any diagnosis?
I mean, I have PTSD, I have epilepsy, I have a couple other things wrong with me, but, try telling them that. They act like it's still not an issue.
They act like, yeah, it doesn't matter.
They act like nothing's an issue. Like, none of this should affect me. Like, for instance, I was in a car accident 2.5 years ago, and I fractured C1 and C2. And they were doing a nerve ablation one day, so I'm face down on the table with needles sticking out of my neck. And at one point I told the doctor, I was like, I can, whatever needle you just stuck in, I can feel it. And her response to this is to ask me if I took the one measly lorazepam that she sent me that morning before the procedure. Like, my lack of taking a pill is not the problem here, lady. The problem is that you did not numb me properly. I can feel it. Just the blatant, they just brush everything off, you're always gaslighting you. Nothing is ever their fault. It's always you.
Did you feel that medical was that way towards you when you were in?
Yeah, actually I did, because at one point I made the mistake of letting the Navy pull all 4 of my wisdom teeth at the same time. And they didn't gas me. They just numbed me up. And what's more is they numbed all 4 locations at the same time. So by the time they got around to the 3rd and 4th tooth, I'm like, I'm no longer numb, and they're acting like I'm crazy. Yeah. They're like, just make some, don't try not to move. If we hurt you, just make some noise and we'll stop. Like, I've never wanted to punch someone so badly.
You know what's crazy is in boot camp, they removed all 4 of my wisdom teeth, and I don't even remember getting a say. Like, yeah. I just went to the dentist and while I was in boot camp, and they just removed all 4 of my wisdom teeth. And then I had rest for a day and a half, and then I was back at it. And hindsight, I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, this is, I mean, veterans, I feel like this is all across the board in America right now, but veterans, we definitely get the short end of the stick as far as, even when you're active duty, they don't care about you, you're a number.
Right. And always, if you're injured when you're active, it's like, oh, you're just trying to get out of something. You're just trying to get out
they act like you're faking it. They shame you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And physical health, for what any job is in the military, is so important. So you'd think that they push us to get seen for medical issues, but it's the polar opposite.
Yeah.
You're a liability if you're sad. You're a liability if you're physically. liability, if you have any issues at home going on that make mental health. They don't see it as, oh, let's care for this person to get them back. Like, no, screw that person, get me some, and then they'll just keep doing it until there's
Yep.
all these people, and just leaving all these people just that need help but can't.
Yeah, and you especially see it at the VA, you know, like you trained me to ignore and push through all of these things that are wrong with me. And now that I've been doing it for so long, you're going to act like I should just continue, you know, change your socks, drink water, here's some Motrin, just deal with it.
And that's not going to fix anything. That
No.
doesn't fix things. That's like a Band-Aid or a little cover up. And then you try
Oh, they love their Band-Aids, don't they?
So what do you do now?
I'm a welder now. I've been welding since 2010. So, you know, I got out in 2006. I worked offshore in the Gulf of Mexico for a few years, but I didn't care for that. So you know, I turned to welding, and I've been doing that ever since.
Do you enjoy that?
I do. It's sort of like I never left the military. I get paid to build things and talk shit all day. It's great.
Maybe I should get into like what?
Well,
That sounds.
you know, it definitely has its moments of it's brutal as far as like, you know, women only make up 2% of the trades in America. So there's a lot of sexism.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're probably the first woman that welder that I've ever met. So I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
But you've obviously you know that position, being a female Marine in the 2000s, you were, you know, in a man's world then. So
well, you know, that's another thing. You know, all these guys that I work with, they know that I'm a Marine, and the things that they still feel brave enough to say to my face, which they would never say to a male Marine.
Yeah.
Just mind blowing. You know, I wish I had their mother's phone numbers.
I hate that it's now that you're still experiencing that.
Yeah.
Because it's a shame that I feel like as more females get into different careers, you see less and less of it, and because there are so few in your industry. But I feel like they just get like more hush hush about it, not necessarily it does never really go away. Because when I was in law enforcement, I felt that way. I felt like they didn't like me because I was a female, because of different things that they did. And even if you can't say anything about it, because then you're just a female complaining about it. You know what I mean?
No, I don't say anything to management anymore. You know, that's a waste of time, but I've found the best way to shut it down is to just embarrass the fuck out of them in front of everyone.
Hell yeah.
You know, make them repeat what they said or say something, you know, make sure you got those airtight clapbacks.
Right. Like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't know, so I have to say it louder.
Right.
Ugh. Wow. So would you say that you're happy right now?
For the most part, yeah, I am, but I tell you, it's been a long road to hoe.
I love that you say, like, right now, though, yes, I am.
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest contributors when you maybe weren't your happiest, that you turned to kind of help you get through?
Oh, well, let's see. I smoke a lot of weed. That has definitely helped. I mean, I can't express enough for people like civilians that don't know, but like weed is great for PTSD, so that's helped immensely.
Weed's great for a lot of things. It's
Yeah.
great for a lot of. I wish that it wasn't so like taboo, or like everyone's so against smoking weed, but it's so cool to drink. It's like,
Oh yeah, no, I've also, you know, as a veteran, I've had my issues with alcohol. I actually don't drink anymore because of it, because, you know, it only depresses you further. It's not going to solve anything.
I agree. I think a huge step in mental health is cutting out the drinking. And no one wants to hear that because everyone's made drinking into this like big fun thing. What's really fun about this? Like what?
I actually, the tipping point for me was I just woke up one morning and I decided I'm really fucking tired of embarrassing myself.
Yeah, I'm tired of not remembering these fun things that I'm doing.
Yeah. Tired of waking up the next day. I got to ask people what happened, what stupid shit I did. Did I punch anyone in the throat? Did I threaten anyone? Did I pull a knife on anyone? Because I have done those things.
Me too. Me too. Drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not pull a knife. Okay. Whoa, okay.
I've done that.
But I've gotten to fights, and I'm not that type of person. I am a very actually gentle, kind person. I really am. But alcohol bring out.
Not me.
I've worked a lot on myself. Not saying that that's like, you're perfect, you're great. But I had some really bad anger issues, mostly actually from childhood trauma, that I never really grew from until now I'm 30. I've kind of worked out my child trauma. But I don't remember what I was saying. See, smoking weed does do that though.
Yeah. Also house plants. I have a lot of house plants that helps. I found anything with nature, hiking helped me a lot.
Oh yeah.
Just being outside in the outdoors, being away from people.
Yeah. I love that. I actually once, I don't know who, I heard a fact that every day you should make an effort to go barefoot on the earth. Something about,
Grounding.
yeah, something like literally your body is literal energy. And when you go outside and ground yourself, it has positive effects on the mind.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I actually do that quite a bit.
I love that. I live at the beach, so I'm always barefoot anyway, but
Right.
that's super important. And I've turned to art. Art's a huge thing for me. When you what exactly do you weld when you're a welder? I'm sorry if that's a stupid question, but I have no idea.
Oh, it's not stupid. I work at the Newport News Naval Shipyard, so I weld all the parts for the carriers, like all the walls and stuff. I work in a shop
You're a
there.
badass. You're a badass.
Thank you. I try.
That's really
When I got out of the Marine Corps, they're like, you can't be a Marine anymore. I was like, well, I can't see myself riding a desk. And when I was in high school, I took shop class, and my teacher said, he's like, hey, you're pretty good at welding. You should think about a career. And I was like, well, yeah, let's do that.
hell yeah. That's awesome. That's really cool. Do you have do you plan on dancing any further, or is just welding what you're doing now is kind of what you plan on doing until it's done?
Yeah, I mean, I really can't see myself doing anything else. I did try to work for myself for a bit. I was making artistic things, like I made wall art and I made a coffee table, but I quickly learned that people really like your artwork until it's time to pay for it.
That's so true. That's so true.
Yeah. I could not get the ball rolling on it to make a profit, so I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna go work at the shipyard.
Yeah. I do hair, and then I also just do art for fun. And then if an art piece sells, I'm like, woo, but if it doesn't, I'm like, whatever.
Your hair looks amazing.
What?
I was gonna say your hair looks amazing.
Oh, thank you. That's good. That's like one of my favorite compliments. I have one more question I like to always ask everyone that comes on. If you could go back and tell yourself before joining the Marine Corps to join or not join, would you do it all the same?
I'd probably go back and say join the Air Force. They get all the nice shit.
The Air Force is so nice.
We go out in the field and they get a hotel.
Yeah. Their barracks rooms are dorms. They have a common area. Like, what? And on top of it, I did aircraft stuff in the Marine Corps. I'm like, dumb.
Right? Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll leave this up, and anyone who wants to comment and ask more questions, whatever.
Feel free to reach out to me.
I love that. And thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Was there anything else that you wanted to say about anything before I got you off? Anything you wanted to say?
Oh boy, there's so much to say. I just feel like half the problem is most civilians, they don't really know about any of the issues, because a lot of times when I start bitching about the VA, everybody's like, oh really? I thought the government would be squared away and they know what they're doing. No, they don't bat 100 on anything. Why do you think they're always taking your tax dollars? Because they're only good at pissing them away. Because they're terrible at everything. Everything. For example, I work at the shipyard, right? And there's still, every day, there's things that drive me up the wall because it's idiotic and it's stupid and they piss money away on things. And I'm just like, could we just fix this? And then, it would be better for everyone.
Yeah. It's like they don't think simply. It's like anyone that has any power or say, they just don't think common sensely.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of times because they're out of touch.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah. They're not, all these people in charge, they don't know what it's like to be down in the trenches and dealing with the shit that we deal with every day. And even if they do they care? Probably not.
No, they're like,
They're like,
I was there, so you have to deal with it, even though they know it sucks.
right. They got 7 summer homes, so what do they care?
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you so much. We're going to leave the video up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You have a great day.
All right. You too. Bye.